Welcome to Follow the Money. I'm China Barachina. Here we uncover the stories and strategies of how money really moves. Many of you, especially the followers of Dennis Lim, have been asking for a regular segment with him. We heard you. Starting today and every 2 weeks, we're bringing you the Market Roundup, which we will call Market Marites Edition. This is where we look back at what really moved the markets, the surprises, the disappointments, and the lessons investors like you can take home. And with me to make sense of it all is no other than Dennis Lim. Hi, Dennis.
Hi, China.
Ano, ready ka na?
Dapat laging ready.
So, Dennis, simulan natin. Ghost month just finished, diba? It's just ended. People always say trading volume drops during this season. Did we always see that? I mean, over time?
Well, so far this year, it held true. No? So we've had some dips in volumes. This year, particularly during January, it was a long holiday.
Yeah.
And then August, it was again a long holiday. And then it dipped to the same levels as those times this September. So it held true.
Actually, talking about Ghost Month, Ghost Project, lahat sila lumabas, no? At the same period, nakakapagtaka. Sabi nga ni Sir Francis Gao, the one that had that episode, talaga daw nangyayari. And apparently, people sometimes hindi nila nino-notice. Pero apart from Ghost Month, Dens, are there other Chinese traditions or cycles that investors may need to know or have their attention to?
Yeah, well, yung Ghost Month kasi, well, even if you don't believe in Ghost Month, right? The market is driven by sentiment. Alam naman natin yan, sentiment drives action, right?
Yeah.
So, whether it's a negative sentiment brought about by the Ghost Month or negative sentiment brought about by bad earnings,
Or the Ghost Project?
di ba? Or ghost projects. So, we'll get into that. No? So, it moves markets. Eh. So, even if you don't believe in the Ghost Month, as long as there's a collective emotion or psychological backdrop to investors, especially in the Ghost Month where everybody's risk averse or doesn't want to invest heavily. So you will see a natural dip in markets and a sideways movement.
Nagkakaroon talaga ng reaction.
Nagkakaroon.
Yeah.
But actually, since you mentioned periods, right? And we discussed this before, even if you don't notice it, investors actually follow certain Chinese metaphysical trends.
Wow, metaphysical.
Metaphysical.
Ang Professor Dennis Lim in the house. So, tell us, what are those periods na sinasabi mo?
Kasi, well, actually, there's a Chinese belief which belongs to the feng shui belief, no, which is called flying star. It adds a temporal component to feng shui. Kasi pag iniisip natin feng shui, pag iniisip natin feng shui, yung arrangement ng furniture. Eh.
Yes, yes.
But when we say we add a temporal layer into that, meaning every so often the energies change. So it doesn't say na parang if your house faces this direction, it will always be lucky. Hindi. There's a time changes. So with it, the elements that are predominant during that time also changes.
Which makes sense because energy doesn't die.
Yeah,
diba?
it moves.
Okay.
Right. So right now the investment themes, we are now in a period where it's called period 9.
Period
in
9.
Chinese metaphysics.
So ilan ba yan? Ilang periods yan?
It's 9, up to 9. So every period is 20 years, so it's a 180-year cycle. We're now at period 9. So the period 9 is characterized by the fire element.
Fire.
So when we say fire element, ito yung mga industries. Industries related to fire are AI, high technology AI, fire, which is also light. So there's your solar, right? Solar, renewable energies. And when we say fire, it also talks about passion, fire. So yung mga creative.
Sobrang sakto,
Diba? So creatives, fire also, it's about wars. So if you look at what's happening right now, where are we investing in? AI. So whether or not you believe in Chinese metaphysics, feng shui, or what, the money is flowing into that. Sabi nga natin, follow the money. So the next question we have to ask ourselves is, where is the money going to so that we follow it? Money is going to AI. money is going to renewable energy. So we
Wow.
follow it there. So unconsciously, we are also involving ourselves into the themes of the
Period.
era.
What was 8?
Eight
About?
was Earth,
Okay.
right? So if you
Real
think
estate.
about it, real estate, it is a period where things that are tangible, that earth-bound, outperformed everything else.
So 20 years, if it was 20-year period, I know that that was the time when AC moved its price. Kasama yan sa period na yan, right? And it's a real estate.
SM, right? SM, right?
Properties.
It became, they started developing condos.
Oh,
Right? So
yeah.
it's more of earth tangible things, physical things that you can touch. So earth, it's ground-based, things that you can touch. So yun yung mga nag-outperform
Kasama ba
during
dyan
that time.
consumer?
Not consumers, but it's more, in terms of consumerism, things that are physical, right?
Food.
Style over comfort, di ba? Yung physical things, material things. So it's touch based. And if you notice during 2004 to 2024, this was the rise of the smartphone, something that you hold in your hand that you can touch. So yun yung ano. Ngayon kasi light eh. So it's sight. So investors are flocking into smart glasses. Right? So sight eh. So
So
yun yung
alam ko
nagiging
naman na
themes.
hindi mo na naabutan to, pero ano yung period 7?
Hindi ko na naabot.
Yung period 7, another 20 years.
Period 7 was metal. So
Okay.
when we think about metal, it's a conductor of data, conductor of electricity. Right?
2000.
That's
the internet.
1984 to 2004. So this was the rise of telcos, communications. Telcos, PLDT, Globe, yun yung mga
Dial-up.
heydays nila. Dial-up, modems. So it's a period of connections.
Oh, wow.
So and it's not only data connection, but also connecting businesses, right? So this was when SM from a department store became malls because they started connecting businesses into one place.
gosh.
So this was the
E-commerce.
rise of Amazon, where they also connected the same businesses into one portal. Right?
How will you categorize naman Airbnb?
So Airbnb is more social.
And real
well,
estate
it's
din.
real estate, di ba?
Oo nga,
So
oo
it's
nga.
earth-based. So they connected earth industries together.
Wow. So in the period, if you're just gonna follow it, like literally, if you're an avid follower of this like periods of energy, may patutunguhan din ang portfolio mo, no?
Because if you remember during the metal period 7,
Yeah,
1984 to 2004, it was more auditory. Kasi telepono eh.
Yes,
So
yes.
it's more auditory. And then if you think about it, that was the time when we started buying Walkmans. Kung naabutan mo yung Walkman,
Ano yun?
CD players. Sige, Walkman, CD players, and then Napster.
Nakita
and
ko yan
then
sa 13
Audio
going on
Galaxy.
30.
Nakita mo yun sa museum? Audio Galaxy, MP3, iTunes, di ba? Yung mga iPod, yung auditory technologies, dun lumaki because it's auditory in nature. Those were the themes. So we are unconsciously following certain themes that each period manifests.
On top of mind, do you know someone na really like give that advice and like follows it na kilala sa industry? Meron ka bang-
I don't
Wala,
know.
wala. Kasi hindi ko pa masyado siya
I
na-
just try to reconcile these
So first
concepts.
ka pa lang,
Hindi naman.
Dennis Lim.
Meron naman. Di ba?
Meron naman.
But,
Oo. Pero hindi pa siya kasi ganun karampat. It's not in the mainstream, I would believe. But it really makes sense. Like, if you're, sinasabi mo nga, tangibility, may tangible evidence, which is, alam mo yun, kung come to think of it, it's worth looking at. Diba? Pero the index, when it comes to like, these periods of time, I want to go, alam natin na ang market marites natin would have to look back of what happened ng September. But because this is the first time that we're gonna do this, it makes sense to talk about those periods na pinagdaanan natin, di ba? Alam ko naman yung period 8 lang yung naabutan mo. Yung period 7, di mo na naabutan. Pero can you talk about the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Kung ano-ano yun, kabisado
Masyadong
mo ba?
malayo na yun.
Masyado na
That's-
malayo. Pero but it's something na elements, no? All in all, it's like Captain
usually
Planet.
elements. Oo. Because after period 9, we go back to 1, and that's going to be water.
Oh, so it is water.
I don't
fire?
know.
Hindi, yun talaga yung water. Okay.
One water.
Sige. So going back naman, the index slipped to around 6,118 by the third week of September, with financials leading the drop by more than 2%, while mining and oil stocks were by more than 3%. What was the overall sentiment in the past 3 weeks for the PSE?
Well, the overall aside from the ghost month, may risk aversion and tentativeness of investors, no. But the overall sentiment really is confusion and uncertainty. Because of what's happening with, so dito tayo, from the ghost month, we go to ghost projects. Right? So, because all of this discussion now puts into question whether the GDP forecasts are still accurate. Because if you think about it, we've logged in GDP forecast in terms of government spending. We've logged in so and so. So now it puts into question, are these figures still correct? Were these really... Is this the real amount that's really spent by the government in terms of infrastructure? And with the backdrop of we're going to have less infrastructure spending, this now throws a curveball into GDP estimates moving forward. So of course, we know that the market hates uncertainty.
Exactly.
So when investors are uncertain, they flock into...
I agree.
Safe haven assets.
I mean, there's one comment that I've seen, one of our episodes, that I laugh a lot when it comes to this. But, it's funny to think, because it's not because you're making things lighter and you're not taking things seriously. But what I can see from what you're saying is that once the sentiment or the drives that the GDP may no longer be that accurate, so who will believe in the release moving forward, especially on the spending, only to find out, dalawa naman yung nag-spend.
Yeah.
How will you reconcile that in terms of, do we still have an upside in the macro aspect when it comes to the sentiments of in economic scale?
Well, because despite the revelations, companies have generally been doing well naman. Right? So there's nothing that has fundamentally changed these companies. Right? It's not as if the companies that we're talking about, the index names, have heavy government contracts that are going to get canceled. That wasn't the case. So if the government really didn't spend that much in previous quarters and consumer spending was still going up, etc., so it doesn't really change things moving forward, except for the line item about government spending. And of course, that also plays into credibility, right? I mean, you don't really want to be investing into something with something questionable or something with that kind of issue. So that's how sentiment is right now. And again, it's sentiment drives action. So we just have to wait it out, be patient. Take a vacation. Like I said, take a vacation when the market's down. Speaking
of taking a vacation, we're just warming up. Follow the Money returns after a short break. Welcome back to Follow the Money. Still with us is Dennis Lim, Equities Manager for Abacus Securities and Content Creator. And Asuki in Follow the Money. So Dennis, you were talking about performance. From macro, we will go now to micro view when it comes to the private equities. So which stocks do you think underperformed for the last 3 weeks, surprisingly?
Surprisingly, despite the rate easing environment, property stocks should have benefited from it, even REITs. No? But for September at least, we've seen a large dip, even a sell-off in REITs because of the block sales. No? So that was quite a surprising development for the property sector.
In terms of naman overperformance naman, surprisingly that overperformed, have you seen some equities that overperform surprisingly?
I wouldn't say, well, right now the sector that really overperforms is the mining sector, and I wouldn't say that it's a surprise, right?
Yeah, because of gold.
Probably some surprising names like most of the conglomerates have gone down except LTG. So that's a surprise.
So it's resilience.
It's much more resilient than the other conglomerates. Also, I mean, the recent rally of Mega Wide
Oh, yeah.
when Siret,
Oo
well,
nga.
again, it's a solar
yeah.
thing
Oo, tama.
that's causing that rally.
Yeah.
So that's some of the surprises so far for September.
But one thing I know about Megawide is that some of the financial statements there are they're trying to be challenged. So, but do you think like Megawide has a potential going forward?
The financials are still iffy. I'm
Yeah.
not sure if the dividends are sustainable, but we'll see what happens.
So what about the stocks that barely moved and who stayed flat? What are you think the reason behind it that investors might be missing?
Well, I think there's a broad-based sell-off in most of the stocks, and again, the reason for it is either it's a combination of tentativeness brought about by the psychology of the ghost month, or also tentativeness in terms of uncertainty on how the government how all of this is going to play out in the future in terms of government spending, budget allocations, etc. Because right now we're talking about 2026 budget. And of course, the market likes to price in what's happening in the future. So what's going to happen in the future? Nobody knows. Let's just go to gold. That's what's...
Yeah. So, ito lagi mong sinasabi sa vlog mo like what's in it for them. Like so for an ordinary investor that is watching us right now, how would they make sense of all of this and what's in it for them? What's happening right now in the market? What sentiment or mindset should they have or should possess in this kind of uncertainties?
These times in the markets when everybody's confused should be a great time for you. Really, because we do not get opportunities like this every day. So it is these times, you always take note of times like this, right? Always take note of times like this, because every time I go back to dips in the market, the thing I feel always is regret. Why didn't I buy more? Why didn't I buy more? Laging ganon. So remember, this is the time that when, like 6 months after this, you will say, why didn't I buy more? Ito yun.
Grabe. Growing up and when I was studying, ayoko ng history. But then when I became I discovered stock market and how it goes, and I see the whole chart, all PSE, and seeing the history from there, that's when I found out na you can really learn from the past. And that's why I like what you said. And with all the headlines and peso weakness, oil shifts, even corruption issues, how do you filter what really matters about, how following this, following the money versus what's just is considered noise?
Ako kasi, well, noise is basically anything that really doesn't affect fundamentals. Right? So, of course, if you want to filter out noise, you always go back to financials. You always have to go back to the corporate story. If the story changes, then maybe there's something that's going to affect its fundamentals moving forward. So, you take those things into consideration. If there's a legislation regulating online gambling, of course, it changes fundamentals. It's not noise, but it's noise now because it's not a bill yet, but we're seeing some manifestations of it. It's it was delinked from GCash, it was delinked from e-wallets, so that's no longer noise. It has actually happened. So you have to take those things into account, no? And then see if are these things affecting the likes of SMPH, for example.
Okay.
It doesn't, right? So you just have to stick to those fundamentals.
And then I'm thinking, do corruption issues or like government concerns actually dampen investor sentiment?
Yeah, it plays a big deal because when you're talking about investing, right, you want to invest in a safe environment, right? So you don't want to you don't want to be investing in, you don't want to be invested like hundreds of billions into a project,
Yeah.
like online gambling, and then later on, the government
Will
comes
strike
in
it,
and say, oh, we're gonna make this illegal. For the investor,
Yes.
what happens to my billions of investments there when the government can just come in and change the rules in the middle of the game? So that needs to be more stable. I think, and all these things about corruption is driving investors away, because let's wait for things to settle down before
Yeah.
we commit to something big.
Is there already a visibility in the net foreign flows when it comes to like the sentiment of corruption that's going on in the country right now? Is there like a, or is there a buying and selling? Like, is it?
It's well, well, so far we're net foreign selling, so
Okay.
there has been an outflow of foreign money so far, but it's also a combination of things, right? Gold is doing very well.
Yes.
The US 10-year yields are doing very well. The euro is doing very well. So there's a natural flow
Why is
of
it going out?
money
Yeah.
going to markets that are rallying instead of markets that are in a sideways pattern. So it's all a combination of things.
For a retail investor, should I be worried about government issues that could shake the market, or do this, or it's usually blowing over without, a lasting impact? Because at the end of the day, your money is actually invested to a private company, and those private company has already built like a legacy for the last decade or years. How do I balance that as a regular investor?
Well, if you are more of a risk taker, then you probably want to invest in in companies that are more susceptible to government regulation, like
Yeah.
DG Plus or Meralco or Manila Water even, because government can regulate these industries, and they are more susceptible to those regulations as compared to things like REITs, like their office spaces, rents, or malls, etc. So you just have to balance out your risk tolerance, no, within those industries.
This is very, I'm intrigued because like this is where mutual fund and stock market differ. So it usually both naman yan invested in, the mutual funds are invested in the stocks. But is there an advantage now that you can pivot easily when you're, let's say you're directly invested in the stock market versus if you're invested in the mutual funds? How do you manage to in terms of portfolio percentage, when it comes to these things, like mutual fund versus like equities? So is that right to think that when you're invested in the stock market, it's easy for you to pivot because it's easy for you to sell versus, like, I'm always thinking about this. If you're invested in mutual fund, it's hard for you to take it out. And in terms of like uncertainties like this, and then you said nga na parang, oh, yung regret ko, I should have bought more. Is it something that mas advantage ba that you're exposed in the stock market directly when in cases like this?
Well, the local stock market is really a stock picker's market. So I would be biased towards stock picking,
Yeah.
right? Picking your own stocks. But mutual funds have their advantages, right? They're more stable. They give you diversification, etc. But they're less liquid.
Yeah.
There's a holding period, etc. So I would say, because times are uncertain, you want to be more risk averse by having the flexibility of taking out,
In and out, yeah.
your investment with less restrictions than a mutual fund. But the general strategy for the local market also is buy low, sell high.
Yeah,
Where are we now? Are we high or are we low?
definitely no.
Oh, what's low, buy low. So we're
Yeah.
supposed to be buying
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
So you just have to choose your your instruments, but they're the same.
Okay, if you're gonna summarize the September as a whole in terms of like investors' sentiment and performance, how would you rate it?
September. Well, the market has been in a downtrend for even before September. So September is basically a continuation, or maybe I would even say a worsening of that downtrend, because we're now back to
Yeah.
6,000.
Yeah.
So are we going to, well, 6,040? Are we going to 6,000? Are we going to 5,800?
Oh my
We don't
gosh.
know. Well, if people know the answer to that, we'll all be rich, right? So we don't know.
Technicians would probably see that it's a, that it's a break. It's a break from the support, right? So let's go to our rapid fire. Di ka nakakaligtas kahit this is Market Marites. So let's go to rapid fire. In terms of peso, stronger, weaker, or sideways?
Stronger peso.
So oil, pahat or pakul?
Right now, oil is going up.
Okay, so pahat.
Pahat.
Gold or silver, if you had to pick one right now?
Silver, underdog tayo.
September, alam mo, nagsabi din ni Sir Tony yan. September's MVP stock or sector?
MVP stock for September, LTG, sector, mining.
Okay. September's flop.
September's flop, properties.
One word to describe the market mood this month.
Yan.
Not even a word. Okay. So right now, how will you complete money follows you when?
Money follows when you ignore it.
Thanks so much, Dens, for giving that kind of sentiment and sharing your insights for the month of September. So every opportunity requires the right mindset. And in investing, it pays to think big. As Warren Buffett once said, when it's raining gold, reach for a bucket, not a thimble. So from Ghost Month to governance, from gold to September's surprise winners and losers, that's our very first Market Roundup, Market Marites Edition. Dennis, thank you for sharing your insights, and to all our viewers, we'll be back in the next 2 weeks with another roundup of highlights that you can actually use. I'm China Barachina with Dennis Lim. Stay sharp, stay curious, and always follow the money.